Big Sales National Football Show. We appreciate you coming aboard. Thank you again. Big week of college football. So Tony Siracusa from the Last Word on College Football will join us at 5:30 Eastern. Big week. All the games this weekend, college football, no pro games. Next week, we get you kicked off with all the NFL action. So we'll talk to our friend. I can't wait to see what Deion Sanders does. Deion Sanders will never win a national championship at Colorado. Do you know why? Why do you guys think Deion Sanders will never win a national title at Colorado? Colorado now moving to the Big 12. Why do you think he'll never? He will never win to the level he wants to win. Why do you think he's not going to win there? Okay? Ishmael goes that Deion's going to have Colorado balling because no one wants to play for the Buffaloes. I disagree with that. Can I tell you why? Deion one day is going to be the head football coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to be the coach of the Falcons. I think the NFL is going to come knocking. Every single thing that guy does wins. I've known Deion Sanders since he was 16 years old. I have never been around a guy who I have seen everything he touches, he's a winner at. Deion Sanders, for him, for Shane Steichen and guys like Jonathan Gannon, for limited coaching experience to get head coaching jobs, I feel more comfortable handing the reins of an NFL football team over to Deion Sanders than I do to Shane Steichen or Jonathan Gannon. Who do you feel more comfortable with? Who do you feel more comfortable with handing the keys of an NFL franchise over to? Jonathan Gannon or Deion Sanders? Deion gets the greatest assistant coaches. He gets former players who want to work for him. He makes guys want to leave programs to want to go play for him. Why is that? He's genuine and he's honest. And he tells you who you are. You guys won one game here last year. You guys can hit the portal all you want now. Go ahead. Most of you should be hitting the portal because you ain't going to be here. They were handing out scholarships at Colorado like they were library passes. Dude, when you get a scholarship at a big-time program, they're one-year renewable deals, which means this, you got to do your part every year. Now, some programs are going on these 4-year scholarship deals. Okay, I think that's a mistake. I would never give a kid a 4-year scholarship, including Arch Manning. I'm not doing any of that shit. You got to prove it to me every year. Players are overrated. They prove it every year. They're overrated. You're going to sign more players that are overrated than superstars. Why would I give you a 4-year scholarship to be a turd on my team? After a while, all you're doing is collecting turds, not stars. I think Deion's going to be a hell of an NFL head coach one day. I hope somebody like Atlanta hires him. Somebody in the NFL gives him a shot. Had to take the Colorado job because he couldn't get the Auburn job because they gave it to that puke Hugh Freeze instead at Auburn. I'm not going to go crazy with it and go into race and shit, but come on. What, the Auburn alumni didn't want to have a black face as the head coach of Auburn? Aren't you above this now? I mean, really. It's 2023. Don't you want to win? Can you imagine Deion with the Auburn badge instead of the Colorado badge? Walking into a kid's room. I'm the head coach of Auburn. Wow, okay. I'm the head coach of Colorado. Where's that? Oh, it's out west somewhere? Is that like Colorado State or University of Colorado? When's the last time you guys were good? Auburn. Didn't Cam Newton play there? Yeah. Didn't you win a national title a couple years ago? Yeah. I mean, can you imagine Deion with that badge? Instead, they gave it to that piece of turd, Hugh Freeze. He'll probably do a good job because he's shady as hell anyway. He'll get it done. It'll be all under the table. But Deion's got to do it the hard way because he's a one-of. He's changing the entire room up there. People cannot. Hey, you know what's crazy? Everyone in here, Deion's talking to his team like I talk to you guys. You ain't good enough. You need to get in the portal. You have lost your scholarship. You are not who you think you are. I'm getting 5 guys to replace every one of you guys. Can you imagine telling a kid that shit? And hearing the truth for the first time in 4 years when you're in school? Damn, my coaches have been telling me I'm good. You won 1 game. You won 1 game. He ain't coaching FSU, Ronald. That kid Norvell has done a job like he did at Memphis. They could win the national title this year. They could upset Clemson for the ACC. That's why we're going to talk to our friend Tony Siracusa at 5:30. Before we get into Jalen Hurts here, I want to say something about Howie Roseman and the Eagles and the culture in your building, how it's changed. You know, I won't lie to you. When Howie was stuck in the broom closet by the owner of the Eagles, I thought he was stuck in the room because he wasn't very good on personnel decisions and evaluating a talent in the draft. But I heard him say something at the press conference yesterday that gave me so much hope on how he's changed his way of looking at shit. He is so much better now. Would you guys agree with me that Howie, that experience of being fired and then rehired for the same gig, was the greatest thing ever to happen to him? Would you guys agree to that? Him having hit, you know what? I just got through telling you guys, you want to affect the player? Take the game from him. Jeffrey Lurie took the game away from Howie. Did he not? He took the game away from him. His decisions didn't matter. His opinions didn't matter. Nobody was listening to him. I mean, nobody cared what he was saying. All of a sudden, he gets a reprieve. And I heard something yesterday at the press conference that shows you his growth as a GM. He was asked a question about Isaiah Rodgers. Isaiah Rodgers is not going to play on the Eagles in 2023 because of the gambling violation. Kid they signed from the Colts. Howie, why'd you sign him? Well, I believe everyone deserves a second chance. Like he got. The greatest lesson was given by the owner. He gave Howie a second chance. And now it's reflecting on his roster. Hassan Reddick got a second chance. Darius Slay got a second chance. James Bradbury got a second chance. Zach Cunningham got a second chance. I was like, wow. If I'm a free agent and I've been fired at a place like Minnesota or Tennessee or wherever, and he picks the phone up and calls me, I'm going to believe that that general manager is going to give me an opportunity to resurrect my career and get my career kickstarted again because I'm getting a second chance in Philly. You know, it's one thing to sign Trey Lance and trade for Trey Lance in Dallas. That's not a genuine second chance. That's just changing your zip code. When you go to Philly, do you think there's any coincidence every guy he signed last year got a pay raise, whether it was in Philly or somewhere else? Okay? Don't you think there's a coincidence to that? Boy, I believe everybody deserves a second chance. And a gambling violation that the league is really coming down on these players hard on. The Eagles signed a guy This is what makes me think Matt Ariz is not off the table. So you sign a guy where you got to admit the league is making, hey, the league is almost going overboard, aren't they, with the players on how to conduct themselves when it comes to gaming. I believe in a second chance. Do you think he threw that out? Now, look, I'm a conspiracy guy. You guys know I'm a conspiracy guy. Do you think he's setting the table to work out Matt Ariz with that comment? Does he believe in a second chance for Matt Ariz? Tone? Anyone? He went like out of his way to say that. I believe in guys deserve a second chance. Why wouldn't you give Ariz a workout then? You don't have to sign him. Work him out. I guarantee you. You know why more teams? Hey, can I tell you why teams haven't worked him out? I have a conspiracy theory on that too. Okay? I don't know what the rest of the league is waiting on with that kid. Do you think it's something? No. Tone, we're falling into the trap again of the guy being convicted in social media and in the court of public opinion when the kid was exonerated by the courts. We're falling in that line again by adding some narrative that doesn't exist, that there's something else out there. The civil suit is for $50,000. This is not a $5 million civil suit. And he countered against them, and he's actually suing the university for tarnishing his name. Okay? In San Diego, it's all over the news, and it's on the news every day. Even a district attorney saying there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Can I tell you what I think it is why no one's worked him out? Because when you do, you're going to sign him. Do you know the punts that he was doing in Buffalo prior to him being released? He was averaging 47 yards a kick. And Buffalo was going, oh my God. The Bills couldn't believe what they were seeing. If you bring him in, you're signing him. You can't let him just walk out the building. He's too good. I would say that Matt Ariz is probably better than 60% of the punters in the NFL right now. But you bring him in, you got to start dealing with the conversation because we know this. The court of public opinion, when you're convicted in the court of public opinion, it's worse than being convicted in a court of law. Am I wrong? If the court of public opinion convicts you, no matter if you have the truth on your side, it's irrelevant. You're guilty. It's how people see it today. Well, just like what Tone said, well, there has to be something else. Does there? Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's a you thing. Why does it have to be on the kid again? Look, if there's the charges that this guy was accused of, this guy should be electrocuted, not put in jail. I got a daughter too. But he's exonerated? I feel horrible for the kid. And like Howie says, everybody deserves a second chance. Don't they? We don't need to come up with a narrative. Well, there has to be something else. What would that be? Well, there's something else out there. Maybe he raped someone else. Is that what you're saying? Well, maybe the authorities have more intel on him. That's not what they're saying. Well, maybe he's not that good. That's not the case. I'll give you guys a little insight. If he can't find a home this year, the Rock's already cleared him to play in the XFL. So if he doesn't play in the NFL this year, he will be punting in the XFL. I already know this. The XFL has cleared him. So people are going to get a chance to see him either this year or next year. So you're going to sign a lesser guy because of fear. Everybody deserves a second chance. And by the way, the Eagles gave Michael Vick a second chance, Jalen Carter a second chance. I admire that. I totally admire that. You know why? They don't listen to the outside noise. They look at the content of the character of the individual, and they have to look you in the eye and believe in you. That's an eyeball thing. I don't think you can call a guy and talk to him on the phone and figure out whether or not he's got character. I think you got to look a guy in the eyeballs, and you got to look a guy in the mirrors, and you got to see it in his eyes that he's how many times have you looked somebody in the eye and you know he's a bullshit artist, and he's telling you one thing and you know quite for fact you know something completely different about the guy, the way he carries himself and conducts himself. Okay? Brian goes like this: if you're a Christian, you believe in second chances. Don't kid yourself, Brian. People believe in rehabilitation. They say they do, but they don't. Okay? Do your time. You should be able to get a second chance in life. You make a mistake in life, you go to prison for it, you do your time, you should have an opportunity at the brass ring yourself. I believe that. Or why the hell have jails? Just kill everyone. Okay? Big Sills, Miami stinks. Hasn't been good in 20 years, has it? To be fair, Tony Dungy vouched for him. He did. I was there. I was there breaking your Philadelphia Eagle news. Yeah, don't kid yourself, Brian. I know plenty of people who have selective morality. I was in the room when Michael Vick was signed by Andy Reid. When Tom Shaw called me, Sills, Reed's here with Joe Banner. You better get over here. Crawford Kirk called me. Sills, the Eagles are signing Vick. It was one of the great stories that I broke. I was the first man to break the story that Michael Vick was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. I had it at 11 a.m. in the morning, Tone. Google it. Dan Sileo, the first person to report on Michael Vick signing with the Eagles. WDAE, Tampa. You know how I knew this? Tom Shaw, the great strength and conditioning coach, was working him out. Tony Dungy had set it up. Jeffrey Lurie came down. The whole Eagle brass is in the room. Tony goes like this: Dan's good. Tom Shaw goes, Sileo's good. He won't say nothing until I give him the clear. They worked him out. They gave him a physical. I watched him sign the Philadelphia Eagle contract. I watched him sign it. I knew it at 11 a.m. And then I think around 3 p.m., 4 p.m., I was eating dinner, and I got the clearance. It was right before Monday Night Football. And I went like this. The Eagles have signed. I went on the air. The Eagles have signed Michael Vick to a contract. Everyone's like, even the president of ESPN called me and said, great scoop. Oh, yeah. That was one of my better ones, man. And then the other one was when RG3 was not going to be re-signed by the Washington Redskins at the time. Bruce Allen came on my show in San Diego, Mighty 1090, and he delivered that news that RG3 was not going to be re-signed in Washington. And I was like, that he wouldn't even go on the local radio because he hated those guys so bad. He came on my show on the West Coast to break that news that RG3 wasn't going to be re-signed, that they were going to let him walk. So, yeah. How many guys lost their career or chance of making a good living over race or someone taking a shit or something like not liking them? Oh, Ronald, it used to happen all the time. That's why the new coordinators in the NFL today are better. Nobody gives a shit if you're black or white. They care you can win games. More black quarterbacks, in my opinion, from the 80s and 70s were not given the opportunity because you had white coordinators who had one way of doing shit, and most college programs wanted white faces representing the programs, and those were the guys in the pools they picked from. So if you were great in college, like Tommy Frazier, or you were great early on, like Condridge Holloway. You guys remember that name, Condridge Holloway, Tennessee? Guys like that who had to go, or Warren Moon. You had to figure out different positions to play. You had to go to Canada, and then you had to, not get drafted high. That's not happening any longer. That's not happening now. You're looking for the best kid to move the sticks. I do believe back in the day they had a black and white depth chart. Today, I think guys are looking at it like this. Who's the best guy I got? Because your ass is on their line. Okay, if I'm a GM, well, I'm going to take this white guy over to black. Well, you ain't going to be around long. I'm going to take, does this guy give me the best chance to win? I don't care if he's green, orange, or blue. Does this guy give me the T. Martin, another great? T. Martin's the guy that won the national championship in Tennessee with Phil Fulmer. It wasn't Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was 0-4 versus the Gators. People look around and go, yeah, the Tennessee Volunteers won the national title back in Fulmer's day. They always assume it was with Manning. Manning never won the title. It was T. Martin. I think T. Martin's a coordinator somewhere. Hey, Ray, where is T. Martin's a coordinator or a quarterback coach? Is he in Baltimore? T. Martin could be in Baltimore as a coordinator. Why do I say Baltimore? Anyway, I'm going to get to Jalen Hurts here in a minute. Is it Baltimore that he's maybe he's not the coordinator, but maybe he's like the quarterback coach there? Ravens QB coach. Okay, Ray, thanks. I love T. Martin. Me and him became friends when he was the offensive coordinator at USC. I like him, man. Giovanni Carmazzi. That's Trey Lance. Giovanni Carmazzi. Oh, my God. Anyway, all right. Listen. Help me on this. Why isn't Hurts looked at? It's a vanilla question, but help me here. Why isn't Jalen Hurts looked at? Not as a winner, because people do look at him as a winner. As a guy who can carry a team, it's not a good conversation because he carried the first year starting, he was the caboose. This year starting, or last year starting, he was the engine. Last year, he pulled the train. Year before that, the train pulled him. He's just not respected enough. Where does that come from? And do you think it still exists today? And is it stronger? Like, I tried to be fair to Dak yesterday. I think Dak's got a lot on his shoulders. Totally unfair. Like Jalen has not near the pressure Prescott has. It's Dallas. It's Jerry. Is it the Eagles? No. Well, do people respect the Eagles? Well, you should. But do you? I think the Philadelphia Eagles and the fan base, like Buffalo, he's just not looked. Dude, even, even The Athletic, with all the MVP voters, they think Justin Herbert's better. I think he's a better talent. That basically tells me there that you had to build your team with a 25 and under quarterback, you take Herbert over Hurts. I think there's more work you'd have to do under Jalen. Maybe that's it. I think Jalen Hurts being on the Philadelphia Eagles hurts him. And the perception. It's crazy, isn't it? I think him having all that talent around him hurts him. You revere Brady more because Brady did it with nobody. Mahomes did it with nobody. Now, Brady, again, the Tampa one's different. Right? Why do you look at Jalen in a different light? Is it a second round? I don't think the transfer has anything to do with it. Get this. Who do you think the NFL respects more right now? Or is looking, you think people look at Brock Purdy and already people are going like this with Brock Purdy with 7 wins. This guy's a franchise quarterback. Look at Purdy, man. He's a franchise guy. You're like, he's had 7 starts. People have like almost more respect for Brock Purdy than they do Jalen Hurts, who finished second in the MVP last year. Why is that? Is it the voters? The media? Look, I'll be honest with you about some of the things that I've seen with Hurts and his development and how he's developed into being where he is. I've been shocked, surprised. Maybe I think this is where it comes from. Joshua, maybe it's not biased. Maybe it just comes from this. Those other guys had high expectations, and many of those guys have gone in. Justin Herbert, I tell you what, Justin Herbert, I didn't think Justin Herbert was going to throw the ball the way he did in the NFL. He didn't throw the ball like that at Oregon. He didn't throw the ball like that with Mario Cristobal. He came into the NFL, man, and he's throwing it. He is like the modern day Dan Marino. You look at Justin Herbert, you're like, holy shit, that guy can wing it. I mean, and he kind of elevated his expectations. Look at Lamar Jackson. See, Lamar was a 32nd player taken. He still was a first-round draft choice. But he's exceeded expectations. Okay? Mahomes exceeded expectations, and he was a first-rounder. Maybe it's because these guys have all lived up to their first-round billing. And you look at Jalen, he's a second-rounder, and you look at him as an overachiever. I think people look at Dak Prescott as an overachiever. I don't think they'll look at Dak Prescott as a top-flight guy in the league. Right? It's almost like the stigma. If you're not drafted in the first round, I don't know how Russell Wilson shook that off. Maybe because he won a Super Bowl and he went to 2 of them. Because he was the 3rd rounder. But if you're not drafted in the first round, I don't even know if it has anything to do with him losing his job at Alabama. I think it's got everything to do with he had limited expectations on him coming into the NFL. Now they're looking at him as an overachiever. Usually when you look at overachievers, you're not like here. When it comes to Purdy and Hurts, Purdy wasn't even drafted in the 5th round and gets more grace than Hurts. Absolutely gets more grace. More. I think it's got a lot to do with the coach too. Part of me feels like it's a reason that I hate to even consider, and I'm not even that guy, but I'll leave it there. Tone, that's hard for me because I'll tell you why, Tone, that's hard for me. Now some people will always take percentages of what I say because You know, one of the very few shows that always goes down there and tackles what Tone is alluding to. Is it because he's a white face? Jalen's black face? Man, I sure hope. You know what? You know what, Tone? I'm going to go here. You know, man, do I think black athletes have to do it better and longer? And do I think they have to work harder and prove themselves more? Yes. Are they covered differently than white athletes? Yes. Unfortunately, I still believe that be the truth because as a football guy, I don't care what you are, gay, black, white. If you can catch footballs or if you can, I don't care what you are. So it's hard for me, having been in a situation where I was the minority guy. I played with a ton of black guys. I'm like the only white guy on the D line. Never affected me because I never thought about it. And when you're an athlete, that shit doesn't like have any bearing on you. But then when you look at it through other people's prisms, and you go like this, here, and to Tone's point, well, we're really in some area here, aren't we? You think there's more pressure on Dak Prescott than there ever was on Tony Romo? Ed Sills was the only Italian. Okay. You think the media shits on Dak Prescott more than they did Tony Romo? Pretty much the same record, pretty much the same guy. Doesn't Dak seemingly get more hammered than what Romo did? Shit, Romo's one of the lead analysts on one of the networks. You think Dak's going to get that job? I don't think so. Is there a lead analyst now on any of the networks that are black quarterbacks? Aikman, Romo. Shit, they even got Kirk Herbstreit Thursday night. Sunday night's Collinsworth. It's probably just me and Tone, right, Tone? Hey, I never looked at it that way, but I'm going to jump out of that. Okay, hey, I never looked at it that way, but Sills Media doesn't give Eagles players credit they deserve. You don't think they gave Reggie White his kudos? Maybe it was because it was too difficult not to when you're watching the guy destroy a team the way he did, right? We won a Super Bowl while Dak was Dallas quarterback and almost won a second. Yeah, and the Cowboys are covered more. Collinsworth was a receiver. Yeah, a white guy too. They don't give Reddit credit either. So it could be a Philly thing too. Absolutely could be a Philly thing. Okay. Richard goes, I wish I could have watched him play. Richard, I want you to think of the strongest human being you've ever seen. Then think of the quickest hands you've ever seen in a boxer like Mayweather. Okay, can I tell you who he was like, Richard? Watching Reggie White play was like looking at Shaquille O'Neal with Floyd Mayweather hands and the strength of Andre the Giant. I've never, everyone goes, Aaron Donald's. I'm like, no, not him. Not him. Reggie White is by far the most destructive and the greatest defensive lineman I've ever witnessed. I mean, I've never seen a player do things to Larry Allen or some of these other guys and just throw people around like bags of potatoes and trash. And he's just you watched him on film. You did this. You had the clicker. Okay, you had the clicker. You're watching Reggie, and you're watching like the Eagles against the Giants if you have to play one of those teams. And you have everyone in the room, including your position coach, going, good God. And everyone's in there going, Jesus. And you can hear everyone saying it. Good God. Look at his first step. Look at his rip. There's the hump. My God almighty. And everyone tried to hump. You couldn't do it. You're just going. And then that 46 type defense you guys had, you're just doing, look what they do, man. They line up over the center. They tilt the nose. Reggie goes up and down the line and just kills people. Man. Whew. Seals, did you pray with Reggie after the game? No, in the offseason. Quan, you know, I told you, Quan, I'm not much of a handshaker. Okay? Not much of a handshaker after games, but I have prayed with Reggie. I'll tell you, hey, do you guys want me to tell you a secret about Reggie before we move on to Howie? I want to go back to Howie here for a second. You want me to tell you a secret? I'll tell you a secret about Reggie. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's the weirdest. B-Walk, Minister of Defense. Okay. So Jerome invites me up to Philly. And by the way, Jalen isn't considered a top quarterback because he doesn't have the elite arm strength. Okay. Has nothing to do with color. Mahomes is black, but he has the elite arm strength. Hurts is great at what he does for Philly. Absolutely. He's one of. I would agree. Okay. Sills, who would you rather have in the prime? Reggie White to start your franchise or Tom Brady? Going to take the quarterback just by position. But if you're telling me who the better athlete was, it's Reggie all night. Okay. Reggie would have made a great president. What a great dude. Hey, here's a story. So Keith Jackson, you guys remember Keith Jackson and Keith Byers? Keith has been on our program, Keith Byers. You guys remember them two dudes? Okay. They shared a house with Jerome. Barb, thank you. They shared a house with Jerome, the three of them, right? And Reggie would come over. Sometimes he'd come up. I think he lived in – hey, does this make sense to you guys? Am I right when I say this? He lived in Carolina for some reason. That was the last team he played on. So I think they had a house in Carolina or some shit. I think this is when he was with the Eagles too. Maybe he lived in Tennessee. I don't know. He was really close to the volunteer program still. Okay. The 21 sacks in 12 games. He came over from the USFL. He was a freak show. Charlotte. Thank you, Ray. So he comes up. He spends the night at the house. We're all sitting there. We're just getting hammered on Colt 45s and Thunderbird. Stupid guys talking shit. Hey, Thunderbird, Colt 45s. I won't say anything else. Okay? Reggie goes in to go to sleep. And Jerome goes, you might hear it. And I go, what? He starts talking Latin. In his sleep, he would talk Latin and pray and throw. He doesn't know Latin. He doesn't know Latin. And Keith Jackson goes, we had a priest listen to it. And he says he's speaking Latin. And we asked Reggie the next day, do you know Latin? He goes, no. He's speaking in the tongues. That's probably better yet. What Quan is saying, he's snoring in the tongues. You sit and listen. You're scared because you don't know what he's doing. I'm like, what the hell is that? Jerome goes, he's speaking in tongues. Okay. Barb goes, you must have been a pistol as a youngster. Hey, Barb, what makes you think I'm still not a pistol? Man, hey, Jerome, I go, what's the tongues? He goes, he's speaking like, I was like, holy shit, man, this guy's from another planet, man. His wife was spectacular too. I loved her. Great cook too, man. So as everything does come back to the city, considering Broad Street bullies, Philly fans, Charles Barkley, Philly is always looked at as outcast. God, I love that ace. Thank you, 1117. God, I love that. Man, maybe that's why I love you guys. Me too. I've always been looked at as an outcast, an outlier, black sheep. I've always been. I don't do things like everyone else. That's why people do everything they can, you know? All right, let me before the top of the hour here. Why do you guys, it looks like the Jalen Reagor experiment is coming to an unfortunate for him ending. And now everyone knows what he is. He's a completely overrated, overhyped wide receiver from TCU that Howie Roseman drafted in the first round before Justin Jefferson. We know the story, but why do you think Howie Roseman failed on Jalen Reagor? What do you think what was the thing that made him fail? Okay. Jalen Reagor was a 5th rounder at best, you think? How about this? How many times have you seen, Trey, guys with first round ability, but you wouldn't draft him to save your life? I think he's a free agent. Now you look back on it. First round talent, free agent. Get this. Think of that. First round talent, free agent ability. It's a contradiction. But then again, the whole Jalen Reagor story is contradicting. Seduced by speed. What was the one redeeming quality that Howie liked about him that made him so emphatic to take him in the first round? What was the one intangible that convinced him? What was the one thing that made him want him? Made him, like when you watch Jalen Reagor play ball at TCU, and I think Des Bryant, no, Des wasn't in the sport any longer. I mean, when you couldn't have seen T.O. in the guy. So what did you see with that guy that made you want him? Yeah, don't forget Whiteside. His ability to pick wide receivers has been atrocious. Then again, the entire organization has not picked good wide receivers. It's just becoming now. You went and traded for one, and you drafted. Since 2000, you probably drafted the greatest wide receiver the organization has ever had. Is that fair? Or since 2000? Because Mike Quick was a heck of a ball player. Would we not agree Devontae Smith is probably the greatest first-round pick that the Eagles have drafted since 2000? Would that be fair? I think that, Deshaun Jackson, wasn't he like a second-rounder out of Cal? Right? He was a second-rounder out of Cal. But for first-rounders, wouldn't you not say him? The rest of those guys, the Jeremy Maclins of the world, and I don't even know if they were first-rounders or not. I don't know. He's probably the best. What is the difference between Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor? Go back. Here was the negatives on Devontae Smith. Too small. He was drinking that night. Thank you, Philly. Too small. Will he be able to withstand the pounding? You know what? The one thing, though, you never question were his hands, his dedication, and desire to be good. Those were all out there. By the way, TCU, I mean, outside the kid from San Diego that was the running back, really, how many skilled guys have you seen come out of that program that have excelled in the NFL from TCU? I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson and who? I mean, it's almost like North Dakota State. Like who? Like wide receivers in that conference? You know how hard it is to get open? You throw your helmet on the field and you're open. Nobody plays defense. Surely wasn't Oklahoma playing defense. Okay? I mean, what did he see, though? That is so different today. On how he absolutely just imploded on that pick. By the way, that pick now even looks worse because now he's been cut by the Vikings. No one thinks anything of him. And yet that guy was what? The 22nd player taken in the NFL draft? That has to be Howie Roseman's worst pick since he's been the general manager of the football team. And don't say it was Carson Wentz because Carson Wentz was not a horrible pick. It finished horrible, but it didn't start horrible. And there was a lot of winning involved with him. And there was a ton of success with him. Last 2 years was terrible, albeit. But he had success. The Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia resulted in a Super Bowl. Couldn't have been all that bad. Couldn't have been that bad. Not like this pick. Because do you understand what's going on right now in Minnesota? Minnesota right now is sitting down with Justin Jefferson, and they're trying to figure out whether or not to pay him $30 million or $28 million a year. And they just cut Rager yesterday. What was the one determining factor on how he missed? I've got to tell you what I just said. I want you to listen again. What was the one determining factor on why Jalen Rager failed? What do you think that one determining factor was? Do you know? It was Howie Roseman because he was the one determining factor. He didn't listen. He didn't listen to scouting reports. He didn't listen to Bledsoe. He saw a guy on tape, someone he talked to, someone he liked, and he didn't take the opinion of people who do that for a living. You don't truly think that Howie goes around on a weekly basis talking to pro and college scouts or talking to college coaches on a daily basis. He does most of that shit in the offseason, and his assistant coaches, his area scouts, and his college personnel people go and do that. Then they report to him. This goes back one more time to Howie listening to everyone in the building. Okay? 11 goes, it's highly skeptical. What? Howie listened to one guy. We just got through talking that you guys think he's a better general manager now because he listens to more people. Howie looked at Sporting News Mag. A lot of people do that. They look at the name on the back of the jersey. Okay? They look at the name on the back of the jersey. Hey, and by the way, I don't think Andre Dillard was a complete failure. He just signed a pretty nice deal with the Tennessee Titans. And if you can't start in Philadelphia in the offensive line, I don't know. I think that's Would we not agree starting in the Philadelphia offensive line is probably one of the toughest jobs you try to get, don't you think? Right? I think if Jack Driscoll got on the open market, Jack Driscoll could probably start for half the teams in the league. Okay? How he stopped trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Gary, so true. But guess what, Gary? Howie Roseman stopped trying to be the smartest guy in the room, and he turned out to be the smartest guy in the room. Because you know what he did in the process? He started building a team. He had the Andrew Berrys, the Joe Douglases, the assistant up in Pittsburgh. He had all those people. And they were there at his – dude, I'm telling you, Chip Kelly's the greatest thing ever happened to Howie Roseman. Chip Kelly saved Howie Roseman's career. And the owner giving him a second chance, this is why Howie came out in that press conference yesterday and said, I believe everybody deserves a second chance. Because he got one. He got one. He is a better Hey, he would never draft a guy like Jalen Reagor again. Not when you're looking at and watching how Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith and how those guys conduct themselves. I think the two leaders on that team now, in my opinion, I don't think they're Jason Kelce. I don't think it's Brandon Graham. I think it's Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. I think those are your two leaders because they lead by example. This is the Eagle way. Shut your face. Do your job. Don't create any bullshit outside the locker room. It's us against the world. And that's the new leaders of your team. Don't you think? Look, Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson and Brandon Graham set the environment tone on what's to be expected. But these are your new young leaders. The baton's being passed. Is Reagor better than Quez? No. Jalen Reagor doesn't belong in the NFL. He's an XFL or USFL guy or Canadian Football League guy. He's not an NFL wide receiver. You know why? He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be. Okay? I like those two young guys. By the way, ton of college games this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. My Canes play Friday night, by the way. Want to hit a little more on some NFL news. By the way, so Jonathan Taylor, he starts the season on the PUP list. You talk about being in the shittiest organization in pro football. Man, I don't know what's worse, Arizona or Indianapolis. Man, if you're Jonathan Taylor, how in the world are you in a position where you think I feel for the kid? Hey, Hollywood, you're right, man. All my friends in Florida say some loves. Hey, by the way, Big Sills has to take a personal day tomorrow. Okay? So this is the last hour, but Friday I will be back. Okay, so again, I got to take a personal day tomorrow. So do me a favor, please. Make sure you sit here and we got a great hour. Thursday, it'll be manned by someone else, I believe, but Friday we will be back. Hey, don't forget also, my friends, 40th anniversary of Hooters, man. We are so looking forward to our great friends. Man, I got to tell you something flat out. I am looking forward to seeing each and every single one of you. It's the 40th anniversary. We love you guys so much. We want you to come out and see us. 7 locations. Northeasthooters.com. Find one of the 7 locations nearest to you for you to be able to go and experience what I've been talking about now as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of Hooters. I mean, look, the iconic Hooter girls are going to be there for you. If you want to get your fantasy draft teams together, great place for you to hold it. Tuesdays, buy 10 wings, get 10 boneless free. Wing Wednesdays, a 40-year tradition that we have at Hooters is there for you. 1983, all you can eat. Kids eat free on Saturdays. 6 items, $6. My God. By the way, don't forget next week we're going to be giving away merchandise and gift certificates for one of those 7 locations, northeasthooters.com. Don't forget, we'll be doing a lot of stuff with our friends at King of Prussia Hooters. And if you go into, and when you go into Hooters, do me a favor, you make sure you tell them Big Sil sent you.